Really excited to have Scott Tyler, one of the great 500 freestylers and distance freestylers in Michigan history, and really secured his niche as the best to come along at that time in the late 70s. And I want to start the conversation with you with the exact same question I ask everybody, and it's really the starting point. Can you tell me about how you started swimming competitively and how you came to the sport?
Yeah, for sure. You know, it really wasn't much of an option. I came from a swimming family. My sister and brother, both older, and foamed the runway, and we all started at Plum Hollow with Coach Jones, Mike Jones. We were lucky enough to have him as our club coach, summer club coach, which that's like having frickin', you know, Joe Bottom or something. I mean, the guy was a phenom, one of the greatest stroke technique guys ever, and he's the one that taught me how to swim when I was 4 years old, and you know, taught me how to blow bubbles underwater and turn my head and not get water in my mouth. And so that was just it. It was swimming. It was, you know, like I said, it really wasn't an option. And I think I swam in my first country club final. I think I was 5, or maybe I had the worst summer birthday ever. It was May 28th, and May whatever 30th is the cutoff. So I always was the youngest, you know, 10-year-old in the, you know how that works.
Tell me about the culture of swimming in the family.
I mean, it was rich for sure. My brother was a really good swimmer, 4 years older, and went to Groves. Also went to Eastern. Really good flyer, and it was just, you know, it's hard to explain. It was just something we did, something we kind of took naturally to, which is weird because neither of my parents, I mean, my dad looked like a guy that was falling out of a tree when he got in the water. He was just a complete spaz, never left the shallow end. And my mom was not much better. So it wasn't like our parents, you know, excelled at the sport. We just kind of fell into it. And I really credit Coach Jones for, you know, getting us into it, getting us hooked. And, you know, he's one of those guys that you just would do anything for, and really had a lot to do with my training philosophy. And, you know, I can still remember some pretty epic sets that we did, even short course meters at Plum growing up. So I know that's not a great cultural answer, but it's just, I don't think I ever looked back and had this decision to make, you know, is it going to be baseball or motocross or something else? It was just, you know, I'm just going to swim.
Yeah. You know, and looking back at these results, your brother Brian was second in the 100 butterfly at the 75 championships. Marty Zuba, who would go on, and he actually broke the state record that day in 75 to beat him, went 51.92 that day. Brian went 52.8. But, you know, I'm curious, you know, as a young guy who's like 4 years behind, did that make you a fan of the sport because you were watching your brother? Were you finding yourself going to a lot of meets? Did you know all the swimmers in the state of Michigan before you ever kind of stepped onto that playing field because you were kind of watching Big grow in such a competitive situation?
No doubt about it. Brian was a big influence. You know, when you're 4 years younger, you're dragged along to every meet, and you end up hanging out under the bleachers, you know, throwing tennis balls against the wall until the meet's over, and then they take you home. So I for sure knew a bunch of his high school buddies, and they had a really competitive high school team. Matter of fact, they won in 75. So I knew all those guys, still keep in touch with a bunch of them. And, but you're right. I mean, it did have a big influence when your brother is someone that you want to emulate. And I can remember when he went to Eastern, so I think I would have been in 8th grade. They did their training trip in Lauderdale, I think, every year. And I went and I swam. And, you know, Coach Jones, since he knew me, I was a complete scrub, but he threw me in some, you know, leper lane, the outside lane, and just got ground up twice a day. We must have been going, you know, probably 10, 12 grand. I know those guys were doing at least that much. I'm sure I got to practice.
Like these kids today, they don't understand this. That we went down to Fort Lauderdale and we did like 9 or 10 both practices. Like we were doing 20 a day.
Oh, I'm telling you. And there was no worries about anyone getting in trouble because you could barely lift your head up in between practices. So in between practices, we went to the beach and just kind of crashed and got sunburned, and then went back and did it again. It was, but that was for sure a turning point. You know, to even at a short period of time like that, to put that kind of yardage under your belt. And to swim with people that are obviously, you know, so much, and all you're trying to do is not get lapped multiple times and get just ground up, because, you know, these are big boys.
Yeah. My favorite part of that story is just thinking about the potential recruiting violations and how that would have been viewed today if a coach had one of the top 5 distance swimmers in America swimming out his training trip the whole week. I don't know if that would be received as well today.
Yeah.
Or if you could have kept it a secret as well as you might have back in 76 or
yeah.
But so let's talk about, you know, the kind of successes and you kind of stepping through the door a little bit. So, you know, you talk about, you know, I swam my first final when I was 5, but when did you do something? Do you have any breakthroughs that you remember where you kind of like, okay, maybe Big Bro's good at this, but I'm going to be pretty good at this too. There's some points there. And when did that kind of set in that you were going to be good too?
You know, it definitely was not. I am not a sprinter. I'm a 2-beat kicker. It looks like someone's injected my legs with, you know, Botox or something. They just drag behind me. So swimming 50s in the inter-club league was not my thing. And I don't even know that I won an event or maybe once, you know, I snuck in and did something. But no, I really think it was, it's a long story, but we moved in my sophomore year of high school. We moved to Las Vegas, and it was my dad was transferred out there. Las Vegas is a super weird place to be at any age in your life, but when you're 16, it's a really weird place to be. I joined a team out in Henderson, Nevada. I think they were the Sandpipers or something. And we had a pretty good coach from California, and I started doing some, you know, we had some other good guys to train with. And that would probably constitute sort of a mini breakthrough. I remember, like, okay, I broke 5 minutes in the 500 out there. I sort of figured out, you know, this is probably my thing. I'm a middle distance freestyler, pretty, you know, decent. Again, not winning anything. And then by some act of God, we were able to move back to Michigan. So we were out there about 18 months. I transferred back and got into Groves the fall of my freshman year, or the fall of my junior year, sorry. And joined the team. I was kind of back with the buddies that I went to junior high school with. And that, you know, at that time, I think I had been low 450s, maybe 440 something, you know, kind of all through that junior year, and just started to drop. It really just came out of the blue. It really was like this freak thing.
Did you, so did you start your freshman year at Groves? Did you start high school?
No, because it was 7th, 8th, and 9th was junior
middle
high.
Schooler, and then 10th grade you go to Vegas or go to Nevada, and then you come back. So do you start your junior year in school?
No, I start my junior year. I don't get to Groves, I don't think, until like October for whatever reason. So it's
I mean, so you make this 78 story even more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was super weird, because now you're coming into all the kids that joined, you know, the high school from all the surrounding junior high schools, and everyone had their thing and their clique and whatever. And so I came back and, you know, and joined up with the core group that I knew from my junior high, my neighborhood, you know, guys, whatever. But
right.
Also joined the Penguins that year with Seagraves, Dave Seagraves.
Mm-hmm.
And he was another mileage guy. You know, he was a distance freestyle guy. And so that was a good fit. And I swam there through high school. You know, I would do my mornings with Seagraves and I would do the afternoons with Groves. That was still when that was allowed.
Right. So I'm just looking at the state meet results, trying to get perspective about the time that you left. So just to give anybody that might listen to this, in '76, which would have been your freshman year of high school, only 16 kids in the whole state of Michigan broke 5 minutes. So just to give perspective of when you said, okay, I go out to Nevada, I break 5 minutes there, a little perspective about what 5 minutes meant at that time. But by the time you arrive as a junior, you're talking about, you're a 450 mid-season 500 freestyler as a junior in high school. And I would just tell you, having done the research, that in 1978, there weren't a ton of juniors in high school going under 450 at that time. So just for that perspective. So, you know, that makes it even more interesting. And I do want to get into that 78 year soon here, but I want to ask you, you know, you've established yourself at that point, 450, 500 freestyler as a junior, 15, 16, you're establishing you're good. Why were you good? What were your characteristics that made you a successful swimmer?
I was a really good trainer. I liked to perform in practice, and I did have some really, and you know, you could tell and I was lucky to have such great coaches that you wanted to do that for. And I know you know what I'm talking about. It's like you would go through a burning building for these guys because it pleased them. So there's something about coaching that can bring that out in an athlete, or maybe it's just the athlete and the coach matching perfectly. But I really like to train, and I was well prepared, although I had the worst walls ever. I mean, I look back at some of these videos and it looks like, what were you doing? You know, it looked like a piece of wood coming off the wall. So I probably would have been a lot better long course swimmer.
So you got a chance to swim for John Wieck, right? Am I getting
Absolutely.
that right at Groves? This guy is a legend in Michigan. Can you tell me a little bit about him, Coach Wieck?
Well, you nailed it. You probably know more than I do about him, but I know that he coached the Deaf Olympics. That was his thing. And he was just a great relator and just such a cool guy that there was just no scenario that you wanted to disappoint Coach. We called him Stick. You just didn't want to disappoint the guy. Yeah, just a super cool guy, ageless. You could never tell how old he was. He completely, you know, he fit in with all the guys without being, you know, corny or trying to be our friend or anything. But he was just a really cool mentor type guy. And obviously you knew about his success, but he didn't talk about it much. But you knew that he was the real deal.
Right. I'd love to hear, like, did you get a sense of what his reaction was when he found out that he got you as a present in 1977? I mean, that's you instantly step in, and I get it that, you know, you're a state championship type team, but you're the best distance swimmer to come through the state, you know, maybe not yet, but you're going to be. He knows he's getting a big piece here. How did he react when you came home?
Well, what I don't know is how he felt when he realized I wasn't going to Groves as a sophomore. So, because it was all teed up, you know,
right.
Just go in there, follow Brian, and away we go. And then there was no sign that we were coming back from Vegas when we left. So I do think it was kind of a good thing that the fall of that junior year when I was able to stumble back in. But like you said, I was not, I was not a threat to rewrite the record books when I walked in the fall. That's for sure.
Sure. So like in 77, Spaid sets the state record. I think he dipped down to 438. He was the first guy, just for a little perspective for anybody that doesn't know this, the 500 free became a high school event for the 74 season. So he swam the 400 through 73, even though the 500, if you look at AAU results and things like that, they're swimming the 500 all over the place. And I'm sure you probably got experience swimming the 500 as a young kid, but the 400 distance was the measurement in high school until the 74 season. So the first state champion set the record at 447, and it moves really quickly from 447 to Dan Stevenson the following year, takes it all the way down to 438. And then in 77, Spaid goes 438, but just a shade faster. And that's what sets up you guys' race in 78, which is really one of the, for anybody, and I'm going to pull the results up here in a second for people if they want to be able to see it, but this is really one of the epic races in the history of the state of Michigan in terms of high school swimming. But going into it, you talked about you did not have those types of, you just said a little bit earlier, you didn't have those types of expectations. So I guess as we kind of talk about 78 championship, what were your expectations going into that first state meet in Michigan?
Just to basically represent and try and help. We were in the hunt, we were in the running to win the thing with Pioneer. That was our nemesis, our arch rival. And I remember just, the 500 was kind of a no-brainer, but I was really hurting for a second event, and we had some good 200 freestylers and 100 freestylers. So I swam the 2 IM just as okay, maybe I can score. I am like backstroke impaired and breaststroke not much better. So I don't even know what I got, 5th, 6th, something.
We got 4th place in 159.5. Certainly a stand-up effort for a junior in 1978. Can I ask you, as we're moving through here, can you tell me about Mark Strohl?
Unfortunately, I don't know that much about Mark. I don't know, except that he was a stud, and just that kind of looked like a human ribbon. He was super thin front to back, kind of like De Jong or Rowdy Gaines, one of those guys, and just tremendous underwaters, as I recall.
So I guess I asked you, how do you mentally win that race? What went right that day that positioned you to have an opportunity to win a race against a guy who had won races that day, clearly was on one? Let's understand, you guys both go 4:34 that day. So this is Spaid's best time by 4 seconds, so he did very well that day. What went right for you to go into that race and say, I'm here to compete and have a chance to win that race?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm pretty sure that in the prelims, I think I went didn't I go under the record or something in prelims? I think I did. I know that I qualified first and then had to sleep on, that's like sleeping on the 54-hole lead at the Masters, I'll tell you that.
I'm going to pull it up right here, but before I do, I think I had you in 4:36.4. So you had broken the record, and Spaid was in 4:37.2 in prelims. So yeah, you're coming in as the number 1 seed here. You knew you belonged.
That was kind of an out-of-body experience to go 4:36, because I don't think I had been maybe I came into the meet at 440 low or 441 or 2 or something like that. And it felt pretty good. I felt pretty easy. But I remember then turning around and watching John swim his prelim 500, and it looked like he was just, completely coasting his 437. So we knew that there was more in the tank. And another interesting sidebar is our car broke down on the way to finals. I rode to state meet in 1978 with a cop. He pulled over and was asking was, you know, our car broke down. So we rode to East Lansing in a trooper's car, dropped us off. So that's my pregame story. That's the adrenaline booster.
Right. You're probably thinking the whole time, look, I'll scratch the IM, but I got to be there by the 500. All right. You know?
Exactly. You know, so I think the key was I really didn't have any expectations. I mean, I was super nervous, obviously, going in and knowing this guy is going to, you know, most likely just grind you up. But I just figured I'll hang around, and you know, if I'm in the game toward the end, I know I'm a decent closer, and lo and behold, I mean, the video of that race is I would draw up to about his shoulder on every turn and come out at his waist, and it just kept going. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm kind of still in the game here at the 200 and at the 250 and at the 3. And it's like, wow, it's just he never really put me away. So when we came to the you know, the 450, it's like this is just a flat out sprint. I don't even think I breathed.
These splits. Look at these splits, Scott. So you guys turn 1/10 of a part at the 200, even at the 300, even at the 400, and you're separated by 8/1000ths of a second at the finish. I mean, that's why I say to anybody that's, you know, that wasn't in the pool, you know, I wasn't in the pool, I didn't get to see this. I mean, what an incredible race on paper, you know, like when this race is over and you touch the wall, you look up and I assume you see, like, first of all, I want to ask, are hundreds on the scoreboard at that time?
No.
Okay,
no.
So what did you look up and see? 434.8 for both of you? What did it say?
There were not electronic boards. There were, you remember those little wheelie things? I think
of course, and you had to put the time up on the wall. So you're at Michigan State today, right? So you're at Michigan State.
You're at Michigan State, and well, first of all, you know, Michigan State, the fans, it's like the Roman Colosseum. The fans are like on top of the water, going straight up. And you could, when we got to the 400, the water was vibrating. You could, the place was going mental. And it was so loud, even in the water, that it, you know, that was just propelling us. But when I touched, and if you look at the video, it looks like he out-touched me. I did the, you know, the full-on, you know, fingernail stab into the wall. And
so you're under the water.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And I look up and I think I won. I mean, I think I got it. But I look at the scorer's table and Stick is standing there and he's kind of looking over the lady's shoulder to see what pops up first. And he goes like that. He went like that, and he was, you know, obviously over the moon. And my goggles came off. You know, it was pandemonium.
Now that's really interesting. I mean, like you say my goggles came off. You hadn't been wearing goggles for very long, had you? I talked to Dan Stevenson, and Dan Stevenson swam in the 75 200 with no goggles on. You probably hadn't been wearing goggles for more than a year or two, maybe 3 by the time.
No, I think I was a goggle guy. I was a devout goggle wearer.
There were goggles earlier than that, because some of these swimmers have told me that they really didn't come into form. And some of the guys told me that in the early 70s, you'd wear them for practice, but you'd never wear them for a race. Almost like
I loved them. I loved them. I remember the Swedish ones with the little string between and then the foam, and, you know, I definitely had goggles on. And but you're right, that was a big part of, that was a concern at every race, was that you were going to get through the start and still have your goggles on.
Right. So what's life like after that? I mean, state champion, state record holder, you know, I just got back to the state 5 months ago, and now I'm now I'm the state record holder. I imagine that it was pretty easy to puff your chest out in Birmingham for that next summer, right?
Yeah, it was really fun. And then we went on, and we did not win the meet. We were runner up, but we won the 400 free relay, and that was my first experience with, you know, this. So this is what lactic acid feels like, because I think I got out of the 500 and just sat around and, you know, hugged everyone on my team for a while, and then it was like time to swim the 400 free relay. I was like the Tin Man. So no, but that led to, obviously, expectations were raised, and it was back at it, and for the following year.
Well, let's give a shout out to this 47.56 anchor leg. Or wait a second, are you third here? Are you third?
Yeah,
47.1.
Because I think
you blow the race open. Everybody's even at 138.5. You and Pioneer, and you blew the race open on that third leg.
There you go. Where are you finding this stuff? You are like a savant.
Recruiting's different then, you know, like in 1978, I've talked to swimmers that didn't even really get into the recruiting until after their senior year state meet. I talk to kids today who know where they're going to school before they step on campus, before their junior year of high school. Where were you in that mix? What happened with the recruiting situation after going 434 as a
Yeah, that got you on some radar for sure. And I started to get a lot of letters. I remember getting a letter from Doc Councilman. Pretty heavily recruited. And I think I went on all my trips. I think you were allowed 6 trips at the time. I did all my trips, and I really didn't know what I was looking for. You know, I really wasn't. I think I was just looking for a fit with the coach, which I ultimately found in Richard. I ended up, you know, going to Auburn my freshman year, and he was just another class act, great motivator, great coach, great guy all around.
When did you make that decision during the course of this time? When did you actually make a decision? Is it not until after your senior swim season?
After senior swim season, after senior nats, I hung around, and that was semi-disaster, or had potential to be a disaster, because after senior high school state meet, I didn't really put the effort in that I needed to stay, because we were not fully rested for high school my senior year, because I was going for a senior cut. I don't think I had my 500 cut yet, and I don't remember what it was, but I did get it at high school state meet, and my training kind of fell off. I had a super lackluster 500 at seniors, and I just felt so bad because my coach was out there, and he drove out to California, and I'm thinking, this is not good. And I really had a fantastic mile that year. I think I went 15:30, and
how'd that happen?
I have no idea. It was just like out of the blue. It was one of those, you know, I had a good maybe opening 500, I think, and you know, it's one of those things like, all right, I got a good start here. Let's just try and hang on. I got something going. Yeah, so that really, because Richard was there were a lot of people there. I think I placed in, I might have been in the, you know, 15th, 14th, 15th or something like that. But that was a really surprising swim because I really didn't have a ton of experience in the mile. So, and again, I had really abominable walls. They were awful. So, there was some potential, and I think a lot of people saw that, is that this kid's a little bit raw, and if we work with him, we could have something.
I'm going to pull up the 200 here from 79. So this is your first 200 freestyle title here, and interestingly, I think Ron Council was the guy that I saw that you swam against the year before in that third leg of the 400 free relay. But he pops up second here in 142, but you picked state record in 141. You know, did anything change in you as a swimmer as you describe yourself as a a 2B guy that had a hard time generating speed? Are you just outclassing these guys, or did you find a little bit more speed in that senior year?
Not really. I mean, I don't think ever I really discovered the key to sprinting. I just don't have it. I mean, not that 141 at the time, that was a really
very good,
respectable 200 freestyle, but I like to swim a 50. I just couldn't get it going. I just, the rhythm between, I could never develop a 6-beat kick. I had to slow my arms down to get my legs to go that fast. And I don't know. And I like to breathe every stroke. And so I just wasn't, it wasn't my thing.
Is your heading, like, are you riding high, or like what's kind of going on in your life at that time? It's got to be a big deal for a kid to pack up and leave and go to Alabama. You've been to, it probably helped that you went to Nevada, but still now you're going by yourself. This is a big move.
It's a big move. And I was really not ready. I didn't know, but I got down there. That's a pretty significant culture adjustment to be in the South. And obviously you talk about a little fish in a big pond. We had some heavy hitters. And interestingly, it was also a boycott year, which was a real eye opener for me. Is like, what am I doing? This is not a career move, swimming. So, and to watch all these guys, their future. My roommate, I roomed with Rowdy. So, he was, who knows how many golds he would have won in 80, probably 5, 6, with the relays. And we had other guys that were, they were not that good, not in Rowdy's caliber, but probably would have medaled.
Yeah.
So it was like really somber and just a good perspective. And that's when I said, I'm going to transfer back home, and I'm done. I was done swimming. I didn't have a particularly stellar freshman year. And I think I had mono too, right in the beginning. It was a classic freshman story. So I came back to Eastern and just thought, I'm just going to concentrate on my studies, and told, I had to redshirt anyway. So I really didn't have any intention, but I knew a lot of the guys on the team. Tom Smith transferred back from Tennessee, did the same thing. He did his freshman year in Tennessee and then came back, and I really liked Tommy. And so I did decide to swim my junior year, which was my last year at Eastern. And that was, it was just great being back in with Coach Jones. And I did swim. I was training because I figured, well, I'm not gonna get back in shape or be able to do it.
So Scott, let me just take you through this so I don't miss anything. So if I get all these years right, so 80 is your year at Auburn, and then you transfer back and you have to sit 81 out as a transfer redshirt. 82, you're back in the water in Ypsilanti with Coach Jones. You have a great year, right?
I do. I mean, I spent the year before with a guy I met at the dorm. Maybe, I think it was my suite mate, and we were lifting. So, and that was really my first experience with just lifting for the sake of lifting, like, okay, let's try and get bigger, kind of was the thought, whatever, just something to do. So then I thought, well, maybe I can sprint with all this new girth that I stacked on. And I couldn't, I mean, it was just so right up until I remember going to the max, and right up until then, I think I was going to swim the 50, if you can believe that. And I went to Coach Jones and go, there's no way I'm going to score high enough in the 50 compared to what I could do in the 500. So I'll swim the 500. So I trained the whole year for the.
You went 125?
I think I went maybe. Yeah. I know I swam the 2 and the 5.
Yeah.
And we had a really good distance guy. Johnny Miller was phenomenal distance swimmer. And he touched me out in the 500, and I think I won the 200. So, and I shaved my head for the first time.
That's awesome. You
So
had
it was
never
really
done
fun.
that. You had never done that in high school.
No, never done it in high school. I mean, this is what happened too. It shocked the system. I think it blew out all my hair.
I love it. I love it. If not for that, we'd be seeing the flowing locks right now.
I'd probably have cornrows.
So to put a bow on Eastern, and then I want to double back real quick on 79, but why not that senior year after swimming your junior year? What happens then?
You know, I was pretty focused on getting into dental school, and I got accepted after my junior year at Eastern. So I got in early, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm out, and that was the why.
I wanted to pull up this 500 here real quick with you. So at the time that you swim this 500, you took the state record, and let's pull our stories back here. You know, you told us earlier in the interview that you did not rest fully for this. So you took it down to 4:31.06, full 3.5 seconds faster than you and John had gone the year before. And this record stands, and I'll show you that in a second as well. This record stands for a few years. And you swim I mean, this Thomas Smith kind of slips under the radar as a guy, you know, when I look back at the times, he broke 4:40 as a junior and a senior. There weren't a ton of guys in the country going 4:36. He might have been in your rear view mirror 5 seconds behind. He might not have been a concern to you, but he's a really good swimmer.
Oh no, he was 100% a concern. We grew up swimming together at Clarenceville, the Clarenceville co-host. So I knew Tommy really well, and he's an animal. I mean, he has
great insight.
Super high pain tolerance. So I did not want to mess around and leave him like John Spaid left me on his hip.
Yeah,
I wanted to, you know. So I think I kind of remember at the 300 just saying, okay, this is it. It might hurt, but I have got to get some distance here between, you know, to get him to shut this thing down.
Yeah, and it looks like that's exactly, you're up by 2.4 seconds at the 300 and stretched out to 3.3 as you go on. So yeah, I think your memory is exactly right. But that was a great swim.
I'm really impressed with what you're doing, and really appreciate the effort and the work that you're putting in. It's incredible to me, and it's so important these days that we do everything we can to keep the spotlight on swimming. It's, you know, I'm really worried about the Big Ten kind of going the way of the MAC. You know, with Michigan State falling and Iowa falling, and you know, I'm worried about Northwestern. So I think you're doing fantastic work, and I find it fascinating. I think I was having trouble reading those when you were screen sharing, but it's like a total flashback to see those names and to see those splits and
influences. We talked about Coach Wieck. We talked about Coach Jones. Is there any other people that really stand out? And I don't know if parents stand out in here, but just influences that were most important to your success. Anybody that we didn't touch on?
You know, I was just really lucky to have good training partners, you know, guys that you came up with that were teammates, that really pushed you. My brother was a huge influence, obviously. I mean, you know, I basically followed his footsteps all the way. He went to dental school, I went to dental school. You know, it was that couldn't shake me. So that was a big influence. And, you know, that coaching, parents for sure. My parents were super dedicated to all of our, you know, sporting activities. My mom was like fanatic about, you know, she was the one that had all the splits, knew all this stuff. And my dad was the guy that took the Wall Street Journal, wrapped his jacket up, made a pillow, and crashed on the top row of the bleachers and, you know, wake me when this thing is over. But he was very into it. He just, you know,
But there's a success in that, right? The yin and yang parenting of like, you probably don't need two parents that take splits at the meet, you know, like
No.
it's good to have that balance, and there's
Yeah.
probably some answers to the success in there. Just last couple, what do you most, if there was either a race or an accomplishment that you are most proud of from your swimming career? Maybe it's not one. What are the couple?
No, it's one. And
Yeah.
it's that 78 500. I mean,
Okay.
that was pretty epic. And that was just such a breakthrough moment that there's not even a close second.
Good. I got to tell you, thank you so much for this time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I really enjoyed it. I had fun. And I thought while you were talking, I thought of another. You said, you know, what's the thing that stands out to you the most?
Please.
Close second would be, and this is, you would have to research this because I don't know how I would find it, but Y Nationals, when I was 48 or 9 years old or something, I went 4:48, I think, which to me, I was like, that, and I think I went 1:44 in the 200.
What year?
Well, let's see, I'm 59. So it would have been like 11. I think we were in, we were in the Hall of Fame pool.
Yep, April 14th to 17th, 2011 at the Hall of Fame pool.
Yeah. How did you do that?
Are you ready to take the meet journey here? So I got you leading off the 400 free relay here in 48:48 at 47 years old. I am totally writing about this. I love this. Is this my man Chuck Olson from Plymouth, Salem?
I think it is.
He is the uncle of a good friend of mine, Pat Wickering, who's
How do I not remember Chuck Olson? But
so Chuck Olson was a longtime head coach at Plymouth Salem.
He was on that relay.
Looks like it. Yeah, he was.
I remember. Schmitty and John Irwin for sure. We also set a world record in the or maybe it was the 200 meter free relay with Gary Bice.
Here's your 447, by the way.
Okay, yeah, a bunch of 28s, 29s, no 30s.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, like Scott, we should have touched on this. Like, we didn't really talk about swimming. Are you still swimming? And like, yeah, did you ever stop?
Oh yeah, I stopped for 25 years, and then when I got back in, right now I'm over here on the west side of Michigan, so I can get into the Holland Aquatic Center. It's probably the top 3 nicest pools in Michigan. It's beautiful. I get my own lane. I swim for 35 minutes. I go 2,100 yards. I do the same thing over and over again. It's just like easy 500 every 4th length backstroke. That's my warm up. 4 150s pull, descend them. Then I make up a little mini set that's worth about 700, and then I finish with 8 no breathers.
Yep.
And I'm out. 35 minutes, I'm out. My heart rate's up. I'm, boom, start. Yeah. I've been doing mostly open water stuff now, though. Just, I don't go to meets just because the clock is not your friend anymore. But open water, big shoulders. We did Alcatraz. And I train in Lake Michigan, so I think the key to open water is just swimming straight. It doesn't matter how fast you go if you're swimming crooked.
Well, next time you do big shoulders, you let me know, and I'll be there with a water bottle for you. I owe you one.